Welcome to LMP Talks Wrestling. We're back with a fresh wrestling podcast to tackle this interesting week. As everyone knows, the world is kind of on pause at the moment as we deal with the current crisis in the world, but that's even more of a reason to promote positive and fun wrestling content. There's been a lot of changes in the wrestling scene as of late, as you guys know. Events have been rescheduled, some have been canceled, but as we learned today, not only is WrestleMania 36 going ahead as planned, but it will be broadcasted over 2 days. That's insane. But before we dive into all of that, as you guys know, I'm never alone in these podcasts. I'm back with Artie from episode 24, and we're going to discuss our current thoughts on the entire wrestling crisis. On AEW last night, the Exalted one premiered, and then Matt Hardy premiered, so let me tell you, it was not Matt Hardy. So without further ado, please help me welcome Artie. How's it going today?
Oh, not too bad. I'm quite excited to talk about AEW. It was a very good episode this week.
Yes, it was, and the entire crisis has flipped things upside down, but the fact that they knocked that show out of the park last night, it was night and day with WWE and how they've been doing it.
The big difference to me was the fact that even with an empty crowd, and they still had a big set going, and the pyro was a big deal for me. It made the intro pop more than the other wrestling shows that were on in the last week or so.
Yeah, AEW did an excellent job of reminding the crowd not to think of what's been going on in the world. And as you know, as YouTube and everybody else knows, we're not going to mention that wonderful word. But how AEW started off last night with Cody in the ring, sharing that deep promo about the situation that's going around the world, and sharing that they're going to put on the best entertainment as possible. Having Kenny Omega come out there and talk, have Matt Jackson come out to talk, and working it all into this current situation. So they're not breaking kayfabe. They're not saying, "Oh, we're suddenly getting along now because wrestling isn't working." It was so well put, and you could feel that his concerns and everything that he was talking about was straight from the heart.
Yeah, I'm very glad that they kept storylines together as smoothly as they did. As most people who have watched all the wrestling companies together can tell that just the difference in the attitude of the wrestlers between AEW and WWE, just towards putting on the show and how they're acting towards each other. They're still keeping in mind the situation, but at the same time they are their wrestling characters the whole time, and there's no breaks in how they're acting towards each other based on the current storylines.
Right. It's really, really good. They've done it exactly the way that I would wanted them to do it, and then I would hope that they're taking all the necessary precautions. But let's just put all of that crisis and situation aside and talk about what actually happened on AEW. Let's dive into the story, and I guess we'll start off with Brody Lee. Brody Lee is the Exalted one for the Dark Order.
They definitely tried to keep you guessing exactly who it was, and then fake you out there right to the very end. Just just Brody Lee's silhouette and the voice distortion. The silhouette alone, I looked at that silhouette, and I'm sure lots of people looked at that silhouette when he first came out and the voice was all distorted. It was I'm pretty sure that's Matt Hardy. That kind of looks like Matt Hardy. That might be Matt Hardy.
Same clothes too.
and then nope, it was not Matt Hardy.
Yep. The fact that Matt Hardy himself, we had two different things going on. We had AEW teasing the whole Dark Order Exalted one, who's it going to be? But at the same time, we had Matt Hardy teasing to the point where he even said, "Dear Doctor," or "Dear Doctor RKO," which spelled out Dark Order. Matt Hardy is a genius when it comes to working the fans. And again, here he is working the fans. I will say, once I started seeing the birds and hearing the cicadas and everything, that's what started thinking that it could be Brody Lee, because cicadas and all that stuff don't really work with the whole broken universe character from what we know. But I'm happy. I'm happy that Brody Lee is the Exalted one. And as people have pointed out, and I learned just last night, that man can talk. That man can put on a promo, because WWE did not use Luke Harper to his full extent. He had some little good matches here, And of course, the Bludgeon Brothers, their previous, tag team champions. I'm not gonna forget about that because they had a lot of potential in that tag team. But having him as Exalted One, and now that he can actually have creative freedom and be himself, we have something huge here. And I can only imagine, and that was the worst thing about last night. The only criticism I have for the entire AEW show is the audience wasn't there to pop for that.
Yeah, Matt Hardy coming back, and even Brody coming out. You can just picture in your head how over that would have gone with the crowd when that happened. And the other side of it with Matt, especially with Matt Hardy and his videos outside of the actual promotions themselves, I thought for sure that there was going to be something gone wrong with the whole, you need to get Zenith out of my body and all that stuff. I thought there was something going to go wrong, and Matt Hardy was going to come back as Zenith, as the Exalted One for sure. I was dead sure that that's what was going to happen.
Matt Hardy always keeps fans guessing. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go with this, but I mean, let's dive into the Elite situation then with Matt Hardy, since we're on that topic, and we're already head over here as well, Brody Lee. And again, I was flipping my shit last night when I was watching, and I was so excited. So I can only imagine again that crowd pop, and maybe they'll have that again. But 2 massive debuts last night. So Matt Hardy debuts at the very last minute, the very last 30 seconds or so of Dynamite when it goes off air last night. Vanguard 1 comes down when Chris Jericho, the Inner Circle's given the Elite hell. They're like, we have the advantage at Blood and Guts on the next Dynamite, and I want to put that out there too. AEW has said that all of these things that they advertised on last night's episode will be on next Dynamite, not necessarily next Wednesday due to the world situation. So whatever the next Dynamite is, let's hope that it's next Wednesday, but it could not be. But the next Dynamite is the Blood and Guts match, the War Games, quote unquote, from WWE match. And the Inner Circle had the advantage. Chris Jericho was running them down. And Matt Jackson says, I made a call. Someone's going to be coming to help us. And we cut up and we see Matt Hardy. Broken Matt Hardy with a new look. He's got red hair now, or a red strip in his hair instead of the blonde. He looks amazing. Chris Jericho looks shocked. Again, another point where the crowd would have lost their mind. But Matt Hardy, broken Matt Hardy, is with the Elite, and he will be in this Blood and Guts match.
It's definitely a strong match to debut for the company with him. He's always been the daredevil, doesn't matter what the match is, even if it's a regular match, he always goes over the top with everything, and it's any match I've ever seen with him pretty much has been a great match.
Yeah, Matt is amazing with connecting with the fans. But between Matt and Jeff, the 2 Hardy boys, I've always connected with Jeff Hardy a lot more. But Matt is the storyteller. Matt is the one that puts all that effort into creating these characters. And I'm not taking anything away from Jeff's creativity, but Matt is there's loads of interviews out there and documentaries on how he started his own wrestling federation or a wrestling group growing up, right, with his trampoline wrestling, and it just goes deep. He's an amazing creator, and even when he retires from the ring, I'm sure he will be writing for the company or a company, some sort of wrestling company out there he will be part of, because his genius is amazing.
Oh, he's definitely a big time storyteller, and I've always been a big fan of when he does, especially more so lately with the growth of YouTube since he was first a wrestler, but the side story, no, I guess not side stories, but the extra story he puts into what he does on his YouTube channel and personal life stuff that he works into feuds or whatever he's doing in wrestling.
Yeah. And then, of course, the next Dynamite episode as well, we have the Death Triangle versus the Best Friends in a parking lot, aka street fight, which will happen at some point, which is great too, because if they're out in the middle of nowhere or in a parking lot where nobody's around, they're not going to catch anything or anything, and nobody's going to bother them. So, and you don't really need a crowd for that either.
No, yeah, because the whole point of the whole street fight match is it's supposed to be anywhere. You can go anywhere, do anything.
Right.
So there's not that. I think it's actually would be less restrictive because there's no one to follow you other than the camera. So, you can realistically do anything in that situation at that point. You can go from in the parking lot, back in the building, through a truck, like anywhere, literally anywhere. It should be a really good match.
Yeah, especially with this whole death triangle with the Lucha Brothers and Pac joining a stable, or all of a sudden making a stable in the last 2 weeks, which has been great. They're selling it well. They have lots of pyro. So, I mean, I can't wait for that. And again, the fact that we had pyro last night was amazing. I'll just cut right back to that when Kenny Omega, or I think it was Kenny Omega that said, turn the lights on or light up the pyro or something like that. It was great. If you guys just heard that sudden noise, that was my cat climbing up the chair. Apologies about that. She just wanted to be part of the podcast. Another match that we have to look forward to next Dynamite is Luchasaurus versus Wardlow, I believe, in a lumberjack match. Which, given this whole situation as, the world situation, I don't know if that's an entirely good idea, but I'm not going to speculate too much, and I'm pretty sure they're smart about the situation.
I would imagine just similar to putting on the regular show, they, being able to keep everyone that's there, in the area. No one, it's easier to control who's in and out, kind of thing. So it shouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to do it, but it is certainly a concern in some aspects.
Yeah. And the one thing I want to mention too is Jake the Snake Roberts coming in with Lance Archer from New Japan, and they're just in the audience, continually making the audience not forget that Lance Archer just debuted, because it's kind of nothing against Lance Archer, but his debut has kind of been quiet now because of the whole situation around the world. So him constantly coming in and reminding the people that he's here now and he wants to have a match with Cody, and they're still slowly building this, there's so many storylines being intertwined in the entire episode. It's like, these people mix up, these people over here will mix with these people over here, but then these people over here will mix with this group over here, but then this group over here will be mixing with both groups, and it's really, really amazing how they're keeping all the storylines around. But Jake Roberts, man, watching him and hearing him speak, I forgot how well of a speaker he was, not seeing him on TV for so long.
Yeah, back when early on, when I was more first into wrestling, he was definitely one of the more entertaining guys to watch cut a promo. Just he's always so good at the mic.
Yeah, it's great to see him. It's great to see him back, and the fact that he could talk on the mic at, I think he's 70, and he still sounds like he's gonna murder you. So I mean, yeah, it's moving on from AEW though, and I'm going to let everybody know that these podcasts are all going to be a half hour for the next little bit. I thought I would break them up into parts, as I guess something as kind of WrestleMania has been doing in a sense, but it'll be easier. I want to continue to give you guys content, but I'm going to give you them in half-hour intervals. So we have about 15 minutes or so left on this podcast, but we're going to be talking about WrestleMania and everything going forward. On the next podcast, we're going to continue our talk that we're currently talking about now. So we're going to dive into WrestleMania 36. Currently, it's 2 days. 2 days we're doing WrestleMania 36. It was announced this morning that WrestleMania 36 is going to be 2 days. We're going to have a different card for each day. So far, we have 7 matches, and 4 matches are on the first day. We have 3 matches on Sunday. And NXT TakeOver, I guess Tampa is going to be changed or possibly integrated into WrestleMania. We could possibly have that. We don't know.
I mean, at the same time, with just how long WrestleMania has become, it seems like more of a natural progression for it to move to 2 days. It's just, 7-8 hours of, more so for the fans that are there, or would be there, sitting for that long watching wrestling. Yeah, it's a great spectacle, and the matches are always really good, but that's a long time to be sitting in an arena watching wrestling.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that WWE is continuing to put on WrestleMania after everything that's going on is absolutely insane. The fact that they're just pushing through. They're pushing through. Apparently, there's going to be certain segments possibly recorded at different dates so that everything just airs the way it's supposed to air. It's going to be interesting for the next couple of weeks. But on Saturday, we have 4 matches. One of the 4 matches are WWE Championship, Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. So we're getting that out of the way on the very first day. I'm curious, who do you want to win? Do you want Brock to retain or do you want Drew to take it?
I would like Drew to take it simply because, not to beat a dead horse, but Brock Lesnar's almost never on TV. Like he's there for the pay-per-views. He makes appearances now and then on the actual show, but he's the champion. He should be there, and he's not. So Drew is there a lot, and I think that he would just be a good champion. He would be a better champion.
Yeah, I'm really tired of. I've mentioned this before on multiple occasions that I'm just tired of not seeing Brock wrestle. I mentioned before that if he became champion again, he'd have to be on TV every couple of weeks at least, and he is. I'm happy for that, but I need to see my champion wrestle. I need to see it at least every couple of months or something. Brock Lesnar, get in that ring, squash people once a month. I don't care. Take a jobber and just show that you're still strong after. Every month or so you come in here and have like a 10-second match.
Like suplex anyone into oblivion once in a while.
Right.
It doesn't even have to be a legit match, so to speak. It can just be, like you said, a squash match, and just like find anybody who's willing to take a bunch of F5s and suplexes and just finish it in like 2 minutes, and that would be enough. But we don't even get that.
Yeah, it kind of sucks the momentum out of it, and I agree with you. I do want Drew McIntyre to win, but I'm wondering that if, because of what's happening right now, will they take the belt off of their major champion with no crowd? Because there's not going to be any pop, there's not going to be any reactions, there's not going to be any boos. So I wonder if they will keep a lot of the championships on certain people just because there won't be a reaction. Like, I assume that going forward, I know this is on day 2, but it's with Roman Reigns and Goldberg. Goldberg is defending the title on Sunday, on the second day against Roman Reigns, and I would think that WWE would want to try and get that universal reaction to have Roman Reigns win the title, and with him not getting any reaction at all, I wonder if they'll take it off of Goldberg. And just speaking of that, I'll just jump the next day. But what do you think of that Universal Championship match between Goldberg and Roman Reigns?
I think no matter what the situation is with the man crush that Vince McMahon has on Roman Reigns, that Roman Reigns will get that title, because it's in Vince McMahon's eyes, with the history that Roman had of being booed for whatever stupid reasons, it is a safe time for him to take the championship, because there's nobody to boo him if they were going to boo him, even though they haven't been lately. But at the same time, that's, people just, it's not an issue at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say on how certain matches will, certain outcomes might be changed, though, due to what's happening around the world. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. The second match that they have advertised for Saturday is the NXT Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. Now, the NXT Championship, the Women's NXT Championship, was always scheduled to be defended on WrestleMania. But now I do wonder, going back to what I mentioned earlier, about if they'll combine TakeOver, like NXT and WrestleMania, and just make it 2 days, have some NXT matches on, have some NXT matches on Sunday, and just make a combination card, because with what's been going on right now, we can't have big battle royals. Like every WrestleMania, we'll have 30 people in the ring, and whoever wins will be like the Andre the Giant battle royal or something like that. We're not going to be able to have massive matches like that because of the world situation. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have a bunch of time to fill in, or we'll probably just get 2 days worth of 3 to 4 hour shows.
Yeah, I think that the shorter 2 days of shorter shows is definitely the better way to go. It's it's much easier for fans to digest, and since everyone is going to be watching it on TV, spreading it out over 2 days could very well increase the overall draw to it, because now it's not just one big show, it's two big shows, and that just makes it so much easier for fans to say, okay, so I can put aside this 3 hours and watch it today, and I can put aside this 3 hours or whatever and watch it the next day, instead of, okay, I gotta sit here, even at home, I gotta sit here for 8 hours or 7 hours and watch this whole show. That's a little harder to put the time aside to watch such a long show, and just spacing it out over 2 days will likely increase viewership in some aspect.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting on how this all goes over. Apparently, according to Dave Meltzer, WWE is looking at least losing 15 million plus from WrestleMania revenue just by people not being there and not being able to sell merchandise. So, I mean, $15 million is $15 million.
I'm willing to bet there's going to be some big sales on the WrestleMania merch website, like big sales. On probably everything.
Yeah. Well, we have about 9 minutes or so left, so we'll talk about a couple more matches that are going to be on Saturday, and then on part 2, we'll continue into what's going on with Raw and SmackDown this week. Part 2 might even come right before SmackDown, or it might be coming on Saturday, which will be right after SmackDown, and we can talk about Raw, SmackDown, and how things are heading towards WWE. But currently, we will talk about what's going on the current announced WrestleMania 36 card. And the third match that's advertised on Saturday is The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. What do you think of this build so far, despite everything that's been happening?
I definitely think the two of them have been doing the best with the storyline, especially in the circumstances. I thought it was kind of a weird pairing at first, but as the two of them went back and forth with their segments and stuff, and just the Undertaker's demeanor, and he's always very, he's the big tough guy, so it's hard to not be afraid of him as Seth Rollins and AJ Styles has been with his little group. I thought it was particularly funny when the two of them wouldn't take the contract to Undertaker in the ring. They were fighting back and forth about who was going to take it or not. I got a good chuckle out of that.
I'd probably react the same. I'm not taking a contract to the Undertaker. You can. Have fun with that. Nope. AJ Styles was like, you work for me. No, I don't. Not anymore. I just fired myself. Bye. That would be funny. It's interesting how they're talking about Mark and using his name and bringing this to life, but people have been wanting this dream match for ages, and I hope they don't waste it, and I'm sure it'll be all right. But again, this massive dream match with no crowd. We have, we're going to be having Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, again, what we just mentioned, the NXT Women's Championship before too, with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, and it's going to be interesting to watch those two, because that's the first time ever NXT Championship being showcased, right? And then you have The Undertaker being showcased at WrestleMania, and with his massive entrance or specialty entrance, it's going to be really, really weird. I mean, what's a WrestleMania without Taker? I mean, I think we had that last year. He didn't have a match, or the year before, I can't remember. John Cena fought him that one year, and then he didn't have a year, I think. I can't remember. But as they say, most WrestleManias, what's a WrestleMania without The Undertaker? I mean, we can look back at that and we can go, what's a WrestleMania without Mr. WrestleMania himself? And that's Shawn Michaels. But we've managed to move on and be able to come up with new things. But again, the fact that in 2020, given everything that's been going on in the world, we're getting this dream match, The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. I'm pumped for it, and I think the right thing to do is just have Undertaker win this reign. But it depends. Who would you want to win?
I mean, I always root for The Undertaker for the most part. He's just always been so good. But I kind of think it makes a little more sense for AJ Styles to win.
Oh, yeah?
Just strictly because, AJ Styles certainly not new to the company, but someone who's been around the business as long as Undertaker, and all the things he's done, it kind of makes more sense for him to be pushing other people at this point in his career, even though he's still obviously a really good wrestler, especially for his age, and he's just so much experience under his belt. Belts, he's had a few of them. But I just think storyline wise and career points in people's career, I just think it kind of makes a little more sense for AJ Styles to win.
That's really interesting too. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes over. And you make some really good points as well. And just quickly, briefly getting back to the NXT Women's Championships situation. Now, you've spoken your feelings about Charlotte Flair in the past, and I always joke about her. But again, I always mention how excellent of a wrestler she is, and when she's one of the greatest female wrestlers out there. And she's facing Rhea Ripley again, first time ever. Who do you want to win this match, Rhea Ripley, or do you want to see Charlotte Flair go down to NXT and hold the title?
I definitely think it's going to be Charlotte Flair. It's going to be a good match either way. I would like it to be Rhea Ripley, but I think they're going to be pushing Charlotte Flair to NXT, mostly because of the need to compete with AEW in this instance, and they need to do something with NXT. Not that there's not lots of good talent on NXT, but in Vince's mind, they want to have the higher rated show on Wednesday. That's just fact of something that Vince McMahon would have in his brain. That's how he would think.
True, but Vince has no say of what goes on in NXT. It's all Triple H's baby. So, I mean, Charlotte Flair going down there, possibly it's a possibility of it increasing ratings. It could. NXT has certainly tried to increase ratings over the last 6 months and has been losing every single week. NXT ratings continue to circulate between 700 750,000. AEW is going anywhere between 800,000 and almost like 950, almost 1 million at times. So, I mean, having Charlotte go down there and trying to build up the ratings, because then you'll have whatever Charlotte's audience that focuses on her go down to NXT, hopefully. But if the product overall isn't putting out interesting content, like even for example last night with, again, the crisis going on around the world, NXT had no matches. There was nothing to talk about. There was some promos, there was some backstage segments, some packages and stuff like that, but they had nothing. And AEW freaking knocked it out of the park last night, as we mentioned earlier. So when we have that happening, I know each company is doing their best with the resources they have available, but I even in a ratings war, and even with the crazy situation that's happening around the world, AEW is still managing to stay on top. So Charlotte going down there might help. It might not, but it would be interesting to have Charlotte Flair having the title. But I mentioned this before. Rhea Ripley might be just too young for the whole company just to capitalize on. But I do want her to win.
I would definitely prefer her to win. And just on the note of NXT on Wednesday, they could have had a match that would have been something, but they just didn't want to do it. I guess I don't understand why. It would have made so much sense just to have even just one match.
I'm not going to sit here and judge the situation. I don't know their situation, but I'm just surprised that it happened. Who knows what's going on? I'm sure they have their own reasons for why they chose not to have any matches on television last night. And there's one more match that's listed on the Saturday card, and that's the little build that's been going on between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. And I say the little build because it's been kind of an entire group's build. We've had Samoa Joe helping out. We've had the Viking Raiders helping out. We've had the entire Seth Rollins' group, whatever that is right now, Monday Night Messiah with Buddy Murphy and, Take the Buddy Out. It's just Murphy now.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
And the Authors of Pain. But we're getting that feud coming full circle. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. How have you been enjoying this feud with Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens?
This is one of the few times in a feud where I've gotten behind Kevin Owens. he may not have been utilized as much as I would have liked previously, or in ways I would have liked better previously. But I think in this particular instance, he's definitely the one I'm rooting for.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really digging this Monday Night Messiah thing with Seth Rollins, and given how everything that's been panning out with this feud, I think I need Seth Rollins to win. Just because we need to establish this stable thing that's been happening with the whole Monday Night Messiah. We need to have Seth Rollins be a big deal. Despite how annoying he is, despite how, how things are going, I feel that we need to build this up. And what better way than just to, put that nail in that coffin with the Kevin Owens feud and just say that I'm more dominant than you are.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense in that instance. Sometimes the heel does have to win.
Yeah, for sure. But that brings us to the close for our first half hour. We're going to come out with the second half hour. We're going to talk about WrestleMania 36 more. We're going to talk about Raw and SmackDown, as I mentioned earlier. That'll come in the next few days. But for now, all of you guys, take care out there. We'll wrap things up. Thanks to everyone who continues to listen to my podcast. If you want to hear your voice on here, simply send me a PM on any of my social media. You can find me at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. So with all that, stay safe, be kind to one another, be compassionate, be understanding. This has been LMP Wrestling, and we're signing off.